Hi, Orange County. My name is Maureen Johnson, and I'm here today to talk about the Truly Devious mystery series. And boy, do I wish I was in California right now. I'm here in my office in New York City, which is nice, which is fine. But I really wish I could have been there in person. It seems really beautiful in California. It's nice here too. It's fine. But you know, it's been a while. We've all been inside, which is kind of good for writing and reading to a point. But next year, in person. But for now, let's all stay inside, stay safe, and talk about a mystery series. This series, which I'm going to hold like this, is one big, long mystery. And it features a detective named Stevie Bell. I'm just going to hold up the one because it's easier. It begins with Truly Devious, and the whole series is called Truly Devious for pretty good reason. The Truly Devious series is about a girl named Stevie Bell who goes to a school named Ellingham Academy. Ellingham Academy was founded in the 1930s by a man named Albert Ellingham, who was a billionaire tycoon who wanted to create a school that a place where learning was a game, where you didn't need money to get in, and you could explore your interests in a very creative atmosphere, and it would cater to people with just particular interests and things that they wanted to study and gifts in certain areas, and that money wouldn't be a barrier to entry for anybody. And it's this beautiful, idyllic mansion. It's got a mansion. It's got all these beautiful buildings. It's up in the mountains of New Hampshire. And when he built a mansion on the property to live in with his wife and his daughter. And in 1936, one day actually, his wife and his daughter go out for a drive and they don't come back. And one of these students from the school also disappears, and he gets a phone call that says, you have to bring this money out to the lake behind your house, or we're going to kill your wife and daughter. And he brings the money, but it doesn't help. And his wife is found murdered. The student missing from the school is found murdered, and his daughter, a little girl named Alice, is never seen again. And that is the cold case forms the foundation of this series. In the present day, because these books take place in the present day, a girl named Stevie Bell wants to be a detective, and she wants to solve the Ellingham mystery, which is the cold case of the 20th century. It would be like saying, I want to open the first McDonald's on the moon. It's something that it's ridiculous to say out loud, but she says it and she gets into Ellingham. And the case is called the Truly Devious case because a week before the kidnapping, or about 2 weeks before the kidnapping, the Ellinghams got a letter that reads as follows. And it has this kind of ransom note way of being written. Look a riddle, time for fun. Shall we use a rope or gun? Knives are sharp and gleam so pretty. Poison slow, which is a pity. Fire is festive, drowning slow. Hanging's a ropey way to go. A broken head, a nasty fall. A car colliding with a wall. Bombs make a very jolly noise. Such ways to punish naughty boys. What shall we use? We can't decide. Just like you cannot run or hide. Ha ha, Truly Devious. So, this cold case from the 1930s, which was investigated by everyone. It had Albert Ellingham threw a fortune into the case. Everybody was involved. The FBI, the world, and every web sleuth ever since has been involved. But Stevie really wants to solve it, and she gets into Ellingham on that basis. While she's there, you get to meet her fellow students, who are, they're all quite different from the people that she's known at home in Pittsburgh. But one of them meets an untimely death. And I'm not going to say much more than that. because I would be spoiling it. But let's just say Stevie thinks it's a murder. Stevie may be right. And thus begins the story, which is continued. The books just go... Trilogy's The Vanishing Stair takes place minutes later, and The Hand on the Wall takes place minutes after that. So, there's more than one death, so don't worry. There's plenty. But why did I write these books, and why did I write a trilogy of them? Well, as a kid, I was a mystery reader. I was an obsessive mystery reader. If I had a summer's day, did I go out? I did not. I sat inside and I read 2 Agatha Christie's, or when I was smaller, an Encyclopedia Brown, the Weston Gate, anything I could get my hands on, anything that was a puzzle, anything that was a 1-minute mystery, anything that even resembled a mystery. I wanted to read it. I wanted to solve it. And I wanted to write a classic mystery in that vein where the mystery itself is a puzzle, where it's a game, where you as the reader get a fair shot at solving it. And there are clues, there are hints, the solution isn't impossible. It's the killer and the clues are presented. And if you pay attention and follow along, you have a shot at solving it. And I use all kinds of real world things to build the story up. For example, the case that the Ellingham murder kidnapping is very loosely based on a famous kidnapping of the famous pilot Charles Lindbergh's son was kidnapped in real life. And that case, the Lindbergh baby kidnap murder case, formed a kind of loose outline of the 1930s case in these books. But when I put my books together, I try to get as many kind of tactile, real... You do a lot of research. You can do a lot of research when you write a book. So what I'm holding here is this is a highway map of Vermont and New Hampshire. This particular map is very delicate. It's like onion skin, almost paper. But it is from 38. It might be 35. But I wanted to make sure that all of the roads and everything I said about where different events could occur, because they drive around and where the towns are. I wanted to make sure it was all accurate, so I did things like I bought this road map from the time so that I could follow along, because I am a writer who loves a map. I love a map more than anyone has ever loved a map. And I always ask if they're relevant for a map to be included in my books. And they are in Truly Devious. And these books, you will see a map. I drew the campus. And my drawing doesn't look anything like the beautiful piece of art that was created. This is the art that was created of Ellingham Academy. You'll see it much closer up in the book, but it's incredibly beautiful. My map looked like it was drawn by a 4-year-old who is on a roller coaster and throwing up. How the artist figured out what I was doing is completely beyond me, but she did this incredible job. And these maps matter in terms of solving the mystery, and there are clues even in the maps. I like a visual reference. I like seeing. Whenever, and the book I'm working on now, which is a new Stevie Bell mystery, that is not. It's Stevie Bell. She's just on a new case, not part of this case. This is the whole case, the Truly Devious case. The next case is called The Box in the Woods, and it's a standalone novel. You won't have to have read Truly Devious to read it. It's just a standalone mystery where she gets called in to help solve a cold case of 4 camp counselors who were killed in a summer camp in 1978, and their bodies were left in a box in the woods with the word surprise written on the lid. And those were called The Box in the Wood Murders. and I draw the maps for that as well. I need to see a map. I always have. I wrote a series called The Shades of London, which begins with somebody seemingly recreating the murders of Jack the Ripper in 1888, and I needed a map for that. And as I wrote that, I worked with maps and I spent a lot of time in London, and I wasn't happy until I personally knew the entire Jack the Ripper route. So I took the tour and then I worked with maps. I wasn't satisfied until I could walk from murder site to murder site without the aid of a map on my own, that I would know exactly where that building had been here and where a building had been here, and this road that used to be called this road. And it's just in my makeup. This somehow just is how I work. Actually, so for this next book, for The Box in the Woods, one of my big visual references, and it was just sitting here because I've been using it, is called The Nutshell Studies of Unexplained Death, which is, if you've never heard of these, they are amazing. They're real. There was a woman named Frances Glessner Lee who, she was the heir to a tractor fortune, but she was a woman who, she was born, I guess, probably around 1900 or so. Maybe before that, maybe around 1890, 1880, something like that. But she was a rich woman, and at the time she was a woman, and continued to be a woman. And she therefore couldn't really have a job or any, work in forensics, which didn't exist. There were no forensics to work in. And but she was friends with the coroner in Boston who explained to her about all of the nature of unexplained death and what would happen when they found. I'm taking the cover off because it's very squeaky. It's a very squeaky cover. Come on, cover. Thank you. But there was no forensic analysis. When they found a body, everyone basically just tromped onto the scene, smoking and stepping on it and putting ash all over it, and just touched quickly, touch the body, touch its face, just do everything. And there was very little sense of preserving evidence. And she helped found the first forensic science department at Harvard University. She completely funded it, but she had a lifelong interest in miniatures and dollhouses. And she also became an expert in forensics and developing forensics. And she combined these two things by building these things called the Nutshell Studies. Now, I've seen that both 18 or 19 studies were made, but what they are is, I don't want to show you, some of the pictures are graphic, so I'm going to try to pick one that isn't too graphic. I will show you a picture of her because she's pretty cool. She looks like Miss Marple or something. She looks like a grandma. There's a really cool picture of her. Here she is. She's got one of the miniatures, and there she's making miniatures. So she made these miniatures that you can see some picture of some people studying one of the miniatures that are based on real unexplained death. And they are scenes. Here, these are some pictures that don't have anything too terrible. So she made these incredibly detailed, scaled scenes that, for example, see that little calendar? Those pages turn and are accurate. Those little magazines on the floor, you can read them. The keys in the doors have the doors have working locks. For example, in order to get a material that was appropriately aged, she would wear an item of clothing for a year in order to to build these exact to make the outfits. So everything is a clue. And they were designed as teaching aids. And so that investigators could use these as a way of looking and exploring a scene, a real death scene, and trying to work out what happened by really going bit by bit and not making assumptions about what they were looking at. The most elaborate of these is called Three-Room Dwelling, which I'm not going to show you all of because it's a little graphic. I'm going to go past because these are not these are not toys, but they are, that may be too graphic, but they are, they're extraordinary. Every single thing about the placement of little bits of rope or pot matters. And I find these kinds of things endlessly fascinating. So you should really, there's a site online where you can do a VR you can go inside the rooms, and they are incredible, but they are essentially really creepy looking dollhouses that are such good tools for learning that they are still used to this day to train investigators, and the solutions to the rooms are kept secret. And I'm using these nutshell studies a lot in the creation of The Box in the Woods, because Stevie Bell is also obsessed with the nutshell studies. And as I think anyone who likes mysteries or true crime would be. I mean, I'm flipping through fervently because I don't want to show you any of them. It should be your choice whether or not you look at the body parts. I mean, or they're not body parts, but the parts with the bodies in them. But they are, here's a good one. This one I believe is attic. Yeah. There's like letters on the floor. Every bit of positioning matters. See, this is why I end up writing what I do with these. This is my sort of how my brain works. You look for things, and then something captures your interest, and you can't really let it go. And your brain starts working on it and picking it apart, and then suddenly you get, from there, one idea goes and another idea comes. Usually my books start when just one day, one little idea will pop into my head. One little premise. For example, with the Shades of London, I was in England doing research for the follow-up book for 13 Little Blue Envelopes, called The Last Little Blue Envelope, and I was on some historical tours where they kept mentioning that things were haunted. And the reasons they said things were haunted were because, we know it's haunted because the room is gold, because the door opened. That's not haunting. That's just a door. And the room is gold because you're in England. These are bad hauntings. And I just got so annoyed by these hauntings that then I went on a ghost tour that night, because I was like, show me your ghost tour. And it was like, we saw an orb in a photo. And I'm like, it's the worst. And I was like, if I want a ghost, I want a good ghost, a scary ghost, just scary things. And that's how I ended up with the recreation of the Jack the Ripper murders and what ends up to be a paranormal police force. You just get an idea in your head, or you get a couple of things that interest you, and for me, they just kind of stick there, and all of a sudden I kind of go, what if this and this? And if I stick this to this? And there's always a lot of Post-its involved. Got some of my Post-its here. I can't show you what's on the Post-its because they're all little clues, but they're all like just little things that I end up writing down, and they all end up being, things that you connect. I'm a very Post-it based writer. I like maps. I like Post-its. I like nutshell studies. I like, Pink Bathroom's a good one. They're all really good. I like that somebody that took this kind of care to make these things that are, they're works of art. They're incredible, but she also was a leader in the sense that women were not supposed to be involved in these sorts of things. And she not only was involved, she invented it all, and then used a kind of womanly craft of these dollhouses to make an investigative tool. You don't get cooler than that. I'm sorry. I keep talking about it. Once I start thinking about the nutshell studies, I can't stop. But I think maybe that shows a little bit of the process of how I work. My process also involves a lot of pens on this little rotating thing. You should have a rotating thing with too many pens in it. That's important. You should have a lot of Sharpies that you can pick up at any second. You have to have, you can grab at any time, and a lot of plants. You can't see it, but it's like all plants all around. It's just post-it notes in my world. Plants, post-it notes, maps. That's basically, these are the things I need. I don't know if that explains the process, because I myself do not know the process. It's messy. It's not tidy, the process of writing a book, for me. I mean, the actual document will be tidy sometimes. But you just kind of have to, the way you create things in your mind, the act of creation a lot of the time is trying to trap these little ideas. Put them on a post-it. Stick it on the thing. Stick it on a map. Grab a pen. As far as I know, that's how I do it. I wish I did know. But then you just have to sit down a lot and write. A lot of it just involves sitting down and writing. Even when you don't know what it is you're going to write, then you have to think of a plan of what to write. But a lot of it involves sitting down. But in any case, if you like a classic mystery, I hope you enjoy the Truly Devious series. If you've read the Truly Devious series, I hope you'll enjoy The Box in the Woods, which will be out next year. And also, no matter what, check out the Nutshell Studies. Go online, just put in the Nutshell Studies of Unexplained Death, and just again be forewarned that they are depictions of death, but they're not real bodies. They're little doll bodies, which isn't creepy. It's just be aware that these are real recreations of real scenes, or approximations of real scenes. In any case, thank you for allowing me to come virtually to California. It is my fervent hope that next year I will be able to go to actual California. But we all got to do what we all got to do for the time being, and we all have to stay safe. And I hope you are staying safe. I hope you stay inside and you read and you take care of yourself. And thanks for having me. And let's all get together next year. Goodbye, y'all. Have a good day.